What do you think about this kind of thing that, if I was to place it in time, was maybe 10, 12 years ago when there was like kind of this big push to say born that way? You know, it seemed like it was a song, it was memes,
Right.
It was people posting on social media. Here's proof that I was born that way.
Right.
Right.
Which never came to be. There was no proof of that.
Right.
What it comes down to is people don't remember themselves being any different. And what I've said to people is, if I'm 8 months old and my arm is broken and it heals, and for the rest of my life, my arm is bent in the wrong direction, it doesn't mean I was born that way. I just don't remember what made it bend the wrong way. It's the same thing with us. There are all sorts of things that if you're interested in reading about it and you want to go to the Courage website or Truth and Love website, there are things that from a psychological perspective explain certain things that happen when we're very young that they think may play some role in this. They don't know for sure.
Do you think a certain that there could be different things that cause, you know, the same-sex attraction, that a certain fraction of the population might be born that way?
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously,
you think it's improbable?
I think it's improbable that God would have us born a certain way that would, but see, that's difficult because because we have a draw to something that is sinful doesn't mean that God gave it to us.
Right. And there could be genetic links to depression or all types of things that are hard things to deal with as a God-loving person.
Well, yeah. And I've told people, and this is not necessarily something that people like to hear, but I mean, just from my own experience, if you know people with same-sex attraction, if you know people that like I did when I was in the gay life, that think they're in the wrong body, that think they're supposed to be a man or woman, when you talk to these people, talk to my people, there's always lots of other problems. Lots. So the idea that if you could just get rid of the same-sex attraction, you would not have other problems. It's just not my experience with myself or with anyone else. It tends to not be the root. It tends to be a response to other problems.
Oh, that's interesting. So like with yourself, there was kind of a drug addiction and maybe a gaming addiction and the same-sex attraction, right? But it's not like you don't think the drugs and the gaming came from the same-sex attraction and that lifestyle, right?
I don't know. I mean, one of my friends that I talked to about it pointed out that it seems that those may have been ways I was trying to cope with. I was using those to cope with living a life that I didn't really feel was I was. So this was the way, these were things that I was using to kind of cope.
Right. I feel like if I was to summarize this, and correct me where I'm wrong, so the first thing I think that's kind of countercultural that's interesting is that you feel like a whole lot of people are developing same-sex attraction based on stuff they're going through in their childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And you also feel that it's not a root problem, it's kind of a symptom of other problems.
Yes.
Okay.
I think
and you think that's the majority of what's going on here?
Yes. From my experience, the people I've talked to, the people that I hung around when I was living that way, yes.
So those are both very countercultural claims, in line with the Catholic teaching, though, or consistent with Catholic teaching. My next question would be, what about all this stuff that's got such a bad reputation, like conversion therapy, or you called it something else, like
reparative therapy? Reparative
therapy, yes. What do you think about all that? Like, what's your take on it? And does Courage have a stance on any of that?
Courage does not encourage it or discourage it. It's not part of what Courage is there to help us live chaste lives and to grow closer to Christ. And that's what they focus on. Therapy is reparative. I don't know why there's a problem with the idea of reparative therapy, because no one goes to therapy except because they feel there's something that needs to be repaired. What has worked for me in therapy is not focusing on my same-sex attraction, but focusing on my relationship with my father, my relationship with my brother, my ability to have friendships with men. As those things have been repaired, my attraction to men has diminished. So I think if you as an adult want to go in and work on your same-sex attraction, I think, great, more power to you. I think if you as a parent your child comes to you and says, this is something that I feel, and you think that it's better, you think that your child should go and talk to a therapist about it, I think that's only your place as a parent to decide that, and not the government's. The idea that there are therapists that would tell you, we're going to lock you in a closet and, these crazy things that you've heard about some reparative therapy, obviously that is wrong and hurtful and horrible. And no one in the Catholic Church would endorse that. But to take the worst element of something and use that as a reason to dismiss it, I think is not helpful. There are people within Courage that find the idea of reparative therapy very off-putting because they don't believe there's anything that needs to be fixed, which I don't agree with. I think we all have things that need to be worked on.
Does Courage not have a stance on that? Like, you can go to Courage with same-sex attraction and not think there's something that needs to be fixed?
I'm talking
or maybe
about
something that couldn't be fixed?
Well, right, but they're not going to tell you should go to reparative therapy. That's what I'm saying. That particular thing, they do encourage therapy with a Catholic therapist in conjunction with meetings. And so, yes, there's not that you're fine the way you are necessarily, but it goes back to just be with me. Come to me as you are. Don't come to Courage because you think you have to get married, and have children. You come to Courage because you believe the teachings of the church and you want to live a chaste life. Just come to us with that. That's all you have to come with. You can be really, really deeply into your faith. You can be just coming into the church and just leaving the lifestyle. You don't have to be healed or repaired to come to therapy, to come to Courage.